top today. Let's talk Chris Christie here. You look at polls, show he is cruising toward re-election as the governor of New Jersey, and he's staking out positions on some pretty tough, hot-button issues here. He just signed a bill that bans so-called gay conversion therapy in his state, a move likely to frustrate his party's conservative wing. He also just expanded the use of medical marijuana for children. We learned about that on this show just on Friday, and he vetoed a bill that banned certain types of guns. One of the questions we're asking, does he have his eye on higher office, maybe the White House? I want to play some sound from him. These are his remarks at a campaign stop just this morning, and it kind of sounded that way. Here he was.
Folks know that we're providing a model for the rest of the country, a country that all too often seems too divided. In Washington, D.C. and in other parts of our country, yelling and screaming at each other, each party, not worrying about getting anything done, but putting out their next tough press release. In New Jersey, we're showing people that, yeah, Republicans and Democrats have differences, and we should talk about those differences. But in the end, what they expect from us is to come together and get things done for the people who voted for us.
Want to talk about Governor Christie's, political future, why he could spark a serious intra-party battle among Republicans. Here is Charles Blow, New York. He's a CNN political commentator. And Emily Miller is senior opinion editor for the Washington Times, and she is also the author of the new book, Emily Gets Her Gun, But Obama Wants to Take Yours. So welcome to both of you. Here's the first thing that jumped out at us. You look at this guy, you look at Chris Christie, three hot button issues, span a couple days: marijuana, guns, gay conversion therapy. Emily, my first question is to you. What does that sound like to you? Is this someone who wants to get this out of the way before campaign season? What do you make of it?
He's jumping all over the board, but there's no question that Chris Christie has his eyes on the White House. He was on Friday or Thursday last week, he was at the RNC meeting in Boston and gave a speech where most of the people there expected to not like him because he has gone so far to left and also has helped President Obama get reelected after Hurricane Sandy last year, but really won over the crowd, saying, here I am in a blue state using conservative principles. And then oddly, although he did veto these gun control bills, the next day he then does this, passes this bill on gay conversion therapy. So he's a little bit all over the book, but absolutely no doubt his goal is the White House.
So with this all over the book about him, his willingness to work with Democrats, as Emily points out, Charles, which is, kind of the opposite of what we've been seeing in Congress with Republicans. Obviously that plays well with moderates in the media, but how do you think that'll play in a Republican primary?
Anything that plays well with moderates in the media is not going to play well in a Republican primary, basically. So, the Republicans, what you have to understand about Republican primaries is that among all Republicans, about a third of them are Tea Party supporters. But among people who say that they always vote in primaries, about half of them are Tea Party supporters. So in the primaries, the field shifts dramatically to the right. Chris Christie's moves of late don't necessarily stand him in good stead with that group of people. And what we'll have to see is whether or not he can sell the Republican primary voters on the idea that they're tacking to the right is bad for them and bad for the party, and no one has yet been able to do that. So it's really hard to see how he emerges as a stronger candidate. If you look at his negatives, he has the highest negatives of any Republican who might run for office for the presidency. So it's really hard for him. It's hard for anyone who kind of positions themselves as a compromiser when most Republicans say they really, particularly Tea Party people, say they really don't want someone who compromises more. They want someone who articulates Republican values better.
Well, when you look at gun control, for example, Emily, I know you wrote a column praising Christie for his gun control vetoes. You also note that he signed some gun control bills as well. How does he win over activists in your pro-gun red states?
Well, it's tough. New Jersey has the second strongest, according to the Brady campaign, second strongest gun control laws in the country. And immediately after Newtown, Chris Christie said, well, we need more gun control laws. And obviously, the gun control laws there aren't working. He created a task force. One of the things he asked for is a ban on 50 50 caliber guns, which the only people who are getting killed by 50 caliber guns are in Iraq and Afghanistan. They are not a part of crime. So that was just a sign. This was not about crime prevention. This was about pandering to a certain group of people in this blue state. However, that's exactly the bill that on Friday night he vetoed. And he vetoed 2 others that were very radical, making people say they're gun owners on their licenses and so have other identification cards. So although he's already gone on the record as being pro more gun control in his blue state, he is showing some restraint and showing that, you know, if he is going to reach out to the primary and if he is going to reach out to the party base in a few years, he's trying to make some moves in that direction.
Charles Blow, final thoughts. What do you think?
I think he's shooting himself in the foot. I just don't see how this works to his benefit. I think that it works in the grand scheme of things when people think of general election voting. This is the kind of Republican that you could get more moderates behind you. Maybe you could shave off a few Democrats.
But not early on.
But you cannot escape the Republican primary process, and that process is much more conservative than Republicans in general, and definitely much more conservative than the American populace and the American electorate.
We'll see. Charles Blow, Emily Miller, thanks you two. I appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.